I never thought my past as a Navy SEAL would follow me into a quiet suburban neighborhood. But one afternoon, it did loud, brutal, and unforgettable. 3 men in tactical vests stormed onto my property, flashing fake badges and calling themselves HOA enforcement. At first glance, they looked official. But their gear was cheap, their badges were plastic, and their arrogance was real. Why, Sarah, just watering the garden, questioned them. Instead of leaving, one of them slapped her across the face. That was their fatal mistake. In that instant, the calm father and neighbor disappeared. The soldier in me returned. What happened next wasn't just self-defense, it was justice. And by the end of that day, the so-called enforcers were begging for mercy, the whole president's conspiracy was exposed, and our neighborhood would never look the same. Before we dive in, come into your country, I want to see how far this story travels. That morning had started like any other. Sarah left tending our front garden, her peaceful escape. But she noticed something odd, a black stuff circling our block again and again. On the third pass, it parked across the street. Up stepped 3 men. At first glance, they looked like cops. Dark tactical vests, shiny patches, black boots. But Sarah had a sharp eye. The belts were cheap nylon, the holsters looked plastic, and none of them had radius. Real officers never arrive without communication gear. One of them, tall and broad, marched right up our driveway. "Ma'am, ho compliance inspection," he barked, flashing a badge so fake it could have come from a toy store. Sarah wasn't easily intimidated. She asked, "Since when does the HO hire police officers?" The second man sneered. "We're not hired, lady, we are the law here." That was the moment Sarah knew something was very wrong. Sarah stood her ground. "You're trespassing. Get off my property." The third man smirked, resting his hand on a cheap plastic baton. When Sarah pulled out her phone to record, he slapped it out of her hand. And before she could even react, he slapped her across the face. The sound of that hit echoed through the yard and straight into my chest. I had been in the garage, sorting old gear, when I heard her cry out. I rushed outside. And what I saw made my blood boil. Sarah clutching her cheek, 3 posers puffing their chests like they owned the place. I walked straight toward them. My voice was calm, but my steps were heavy. "You boys picked the wrong house. You've got 5 seconds to explain who sent you." The leader smirked. "The whole president told us you've been ignoring notices. We're here to make sure you comply." He tried to stare me down. But I've dealt with mercenaries and warlords. A suburban clone in a fake vest doesn't even register. I told Sarah, "Go inside, lock the door." She did hard as she knew what was coming next. My body shifted without thinking. Feet planted. Shoulders squared. Eyes locked. It was the same stance I used before firefights overseas. And these meant these imposters knew something had changed. Their laughter faltered. The leader jabbed a finger at me. "You think you can ignore HO rules? We warned you about your truck, your fence, your dogs." I cut him off. "First, my truck is legally parked. Second, my fence is within city code. And third, those dogs are service animals protected under federal law. You're not enforcing rules, you're impersonating officers. That's a felony." The short one puffed up. "You can't threaten us, we'll cuff you right here." He pulled out a pair of toy-grade cuffs. That was it. My patience was gone. I grabbed his wrist, twisted until the cuffs clattered to the ground, then drove my elbow into his jaw. He dropped instantly. The second lunged, swinging his baton. I sidestepped, caught his arm mid-swing, and used his momentum to flip him over my shoulder. He landed hard on the concrete, gasping for air. The leader froze, massive bravado cracking. "You're assaulting officers," he shouted. I stepped in close enough that he could smell the sweat on me. "No, and stopping criminals from assaulting my wife. Big difference." The leader drew back his fist, but he was sloppy. I blocked, hooked his arm, and drove him into the hood of their SUV. His fake badge scraped against the paint. He tried thrashing, but he had no training. Chest bluster. I pressed him down with one knee, my voice low. "Touch my wife again, and you won't walk out of here." Line out neighbors had gathered on the sidewalks, phones raised. Sarah reappeared at the door, holding her phone steady. "Already called the sheriff," she shouted. The leader panicked, tried to bolt, but I yanked him back by the vest. He hit the SUV hood again, this time with a grunt of pain. His buddies were still groaning on the ground and clutching his jaw, the other struggling to break after his concrete landing. I stood tall, pinning the leader with one arm. The crowd was silent, cameras recording. The truth was plain for everyone to see, these weren't cops. They were frauds. And when the sirens echoed in the distance, their act was over. Sheriff's deputies swarmed in, fence drawn. "Hands where we can see them." I raised mine immediately, stepping back. "These are the guys," Sarah shouted, pointing. "They hit me, they pretended to be cops." The deputies moved fast, ripping vests off, cuffing the 3 men for real this time. The evidence was undeniable: cheap gear, fake badges, and a yard full of witnesses. Under pressure, the leader cracked. He admitted it was random. The whole president, Karen Ellis, had paid them cash to teach us a lesson. And that's when I knew this was bigger than a backyard scuffle. It was a conspiracy. At the station, the imposters folded under questioning. Every detail spilled out. Karen Ellis, our whole president, had orchestrated the whole thing. She hated that I challenged her petty rules. My truck, my fence, even Sarah's flowers. She wanted control, and when intimidation failed, she hired muscle. And now the truth was written in evidence bags, fake uniforms, plastic badges, and Sarah's video. This was HOA enforcement. This was criminal conspiracy. Karen didn't back down. She filed a lawsuit, accusing me of excessive force. In court, her case collapsed. Sarah's video played on the big screen, the slap, the threats, the fake badges, the assault. Every lie unraveled in real time. The judge leaned back, unimpressed. These men are criminals, and you, Mrs. Alice, hired them. Not only is your case dismissed, you're sanctioned for abusing the legal system. Our attorney stood calmly. We're filing a counterclaim, conspiracy to commit assault, emotional distress, and harassment. Karen's face went pale. The courtroom knew it was over for her. By the end, Karen was personally liable for damages. Her grip on the HOA collapsed, board members abandoning her one by one. The 3 impostors sat in jail, facing felony charges. As for me and Sarah, we walked out of that courtroom hand in hand. Justice was just served. It was delivered publicly, undeniably, for everyone to see. Karen thought fear could control us. Instead, she lost everything. And I learned something that day: the past doesn't always haunt you. Sometimes it protects the ones you love. So tell me, what would you have done if fake cops slapped your spouse?